Before the final exam, what I wanted to do is provide a lecture that reviewed over the various notes that have been provided for listening context in previous weeks as well as this week. So we're beginning with interviewing, and specifically job interviewing. You had information in regard to both job interviews and research interviews, and we're going to begin with job interviewing. Now, your semester project related closely to the information that's provided on job interviews. Because what you were doing was you were selecting a position at an organization that you wanted to work for, and you were finding an announcement of that position. You were evaluating information in regard to that organization to determine whether or not that's really what you wanted. However, just reading a brief description or reading an organization's website usually is inadequate in order to let us know whether or not we want to work there, and it's inadequate, of course, to get the job there, because you have to go a step further by preparing things like a cover letter and a resume and sending it in, and possibly providing them with a portfolio of materials that demonstrate your skills and abilities, and then moving forward to obtaining an interview through a job fair or through direct contact with the person or individuals that will be conducting the interview. So getting the job interview can be difficult, but once you have it, it can be very stressful because you might not know what to anticipate. What are provided with you is hopefully some good tips on job interviewing from a variety of sources, including one of the most common sources for information on job interviewing: what color is my parachute? Taken from those strange questions that you're oftentimes asked in interviewing. And I would really like that you, or hope to think that you would review over those tips several times for job interviews, and that you would keep in mind at least a few things as you go into a job interview. Everyone wants to make sure that they make the best first impression, and the tendency is to focus on clothes, what you're wearing, if you have a briefcase, making sure you have a folder and a nice pen, and that you look the part. But not just that you look the part, you have to act the part too. And you have to demonstrate what your skills are in order for them to see you as an asset to their organization. So you need to make sure that you pay careful attention to how you respond to questions, and that you anticipate those questions and how you assert yourself in the actual interview itself. So you want to make sure that you voice transferable skills, that you can demonstrate how skills that were possibly in an unrelated job, unrelated field, or in nonprofit work could transfer into this job that you're applying for and that you want in a for-profit or maybe nonprofit organization, depending on where you want to work in the future. Although most of the people in this class wanted to work for organizations such as school districts, or in sales related to an organization, or in a management position, or in some sort of healthcare related field. And those were primarily the types of jobs that you seem to be interested in. And so you might not have had a previous job in that area because you're in school. So therefore you want to demonstrate how you've been building school skills that will transfer well into the job that you desire. Also, you want to be yourself, and you want to make sure that you feel comfortable in the interview and that you feel open to talk about yourself in ways that are appropriate during the interview. And rather than just telling them about yourself, saying, I'm a really hard worker, you wouldn't believe how hard a worker I am, I'm dedicated, you want to give them examples and illustrations of how hard a worker you are, so that you're demonstrating that to them. Or you want to show them works that you've completed, whether it's case studies or a teaching portfolio or an executive summary or something like that that you have completed, that you have a finished product to demonstrate how hard a worker you are. So you demonstrate, you show them, you don't just tell them. You don't speak in generalities, you speak in specifics. Also remember, in a job interview, you're not on trial. This is not a test that you're going to fail. You're trying to just as much interview them as they are interviewing you, because you want to know if you really want to work there, if these are the people that you're going to get along with on a regular basis, if this is the kind of job you really want, if it's going to provide the benefits that you need, if it's going to meet the minimum standards that you have. But you also want to make sure in the interview that you don't leave things hanging, so to speak. That at the end there's some sense of finality to it, that you, in a sense, ask for the job, even if it's indirectly. If you ask for a time in which you can contact them next, or you ask when the next phase of the interview will be and when you can expect to hear from them. There's nothing wrong with asking for the job in the interview, and at times you may not be interviewing with the decision maker, and so you need to keep that in mind. But you may ask for some specific time in which you will have your next communication encounter with them. Now, there's lots of different tips that are provided in the various published works on interviewing, such as, leaving a thank you note, what you should wear in the interview, and your specific handshake you should have, how often you should make direct eye contact, when it's appropriate to look away, your length of the question that you provide in the interview. And there are some, I would say, disagreements on some of those little things that you do. However, whatever you can do to build your rapport and to build your reputation and to demonstrate your fit with that organization and your assets and your skills that you have to bring to the job place, to the workplace, you want to make that happen in the interview. And you don't want to leave the interview on a negative note. Now, we want to reduce uncertainty, and uncertainty reduction theory kind of provides a really good background for understanding the job interview, because there can be a lot of uncertainty related to going into a job interview, especially if you want the interview quite a bit, but you don't know who's interviewing you, you don't have information about them. Maybe you haven't had a lot of job interviews. The only kind of job interviews maybe you've had are things like places at Smoothie King and Marble Slab and McDonald's or a local restaurant, and so you haven't gone through a very formal interviewing process before. So you have to understand that you probably are experiencing both cognitive and behavioral uncertainty, in the sense that you have cognitive uncertainty related to the values, beliefs, and the reactions the other person may have to you, and behavioral uncertainty is you're unsure about how other people are going to actually act out the interview. You don't know the scripts that help to guide your own behaviors and set your expectations, and so it really is going to limit you in the way that you can prepare for interaction when you have uncertainty. So what we do is, in order to reduce our cognitive and behavioral uncertainty, according to Berger and Calabrese and their works, is that we actually engage in information-seeking strategies. They're going to help to reduce our uncertainty, so we enact passive, active, and interactive strategies. Passive strategies in the sense that it may be that we are reactively observing others and how they react to stimuli, or it might be a disinhibition search where just in general we're watching social situations with vague norms to learn more. But in terms of job interviews, we would, if we're going to be engaging in passive strategies, that is observing others in social context, we're probably going to want to look at a specific interview, which would be a reactivity strategy in which we see other people reacting. Oftentimes in classes that are specifically for interviewing, you'll watch interviews and you'll see other people being interviewed in the class and you'll see how they react, and so it gives you a little bit of uncertainty reduction as you gather information about what that situation will be like. Not perfectly, but an idea of what it'll be like. Active strategies is where you're seeking out information from third parties, and it could be that you ask a friend what they went through in an interview. It might be that you have a book and you're looking through it and it's a published material on interviewing, and so you're reading about strategies and questions to anticipate and really good ways that you can word your answers, and that can be an excellent tool for you. But interactive strategies are where you go kind of directly to the source and you ask direct questions about what to expect in that situation. And some people will get in touch with the person that's going to interview them ahead of time, and they'll ask them, is there anything in addition to my resume and cover letter I need to bring to the interview? Will there be multiple interviewers? Do I need to bring multiple copies of materials? Would you like me to bring a portfolio? Is there anything in particular that you're looking for in this job position that I could provide you information in regard to in the interview that I could prepare in advance? So some people will go directly to the source and they'll just ask for information in order to reduce their uncertainty. Job interviews are an opportunity to make a positive first impression, and impression management is important when you're applying for jobs. You're building your face through the interview process, and it's much easier to build face than to repair face. And so learning these scripts for job interviews and being flexible with them is one way that we can try to build our face and anticipate how we can respond and how we can prepare ourselves for the interview. And hopefully that will help to prevent you making a major faux pas or breaking a norm within that organization, as you know as much as you can in advance. However, if you do engage in repairing face during an interview, no, it's not the end of the world. If you make mistakes, if there's a problem during the interview, you can recover, and you can recover well, and it can show a lot about you as a communicator and what you're capable of doing.